Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to start developing a new model, which we call the aggregate demand aggregate supply model. Okay, or as most economists will abbreviate it, just ADAS. Okay, now what I want you to do is remember that this is a model. Okay, and all models are abstractions of the real world, and they're meant not to give us a perfect picture of things, but just to sort of give us a way of organizing our thoughts so that we can think about things in a coherent way. And so, at some level, what I'm going to do in this lesson and the next one as well is I'm going to try to convince you that this picture right here uh, tells us so much about the economy that that this is one of the most important pictures of all of economics, right? I'm going to try to convince you that these three lines right here on this one axis tells us so much about the economy that this is it. Like, this is the economy right here. Okay, and admittedly, this seems absurd. I've reduced everything in an entire economy to just three lines. Okay, and so this is a bit weird, but I'm going to try to convince you again that this is not as strange as it sounds right now. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is we're going to use this model with the goal being to explain the business cycle. Okay. Now, in general, the U.S. economy grows, somewhere between 2 and 3% per year on average. And some years will grow faster than this, and other years we grow slower than this. And basically, what this is saying is that each and every year we are more productive than we were the year before, right? And this is caused by a lot of different things, right? So we have growing populations, and so in that sense, a greater number of people means that there's a greater number of workers, which means that more work can be done. We have increasing capital, so every year we have more machines than we did the year before, but we also have more specialized schooling and training, which also helps us, be more productive. And we also have improving technology. So every single year, technology tends to improve. If you want evidence of this, just go look at the smartphone market and think about how great the smartphones were last year and how much better they are this year. Now, there are three key facts about economic fluctuations. Okay, and that is that they are irregular and unpredictable. Okay, so the first one is that they are irregular and unpredictable. Okay, so let's go through that one. So we talked about the business cycle a few lessons ago, but it's sort of been in the background of what we've been talking about ever since. And today what we're going to do is we're going to bring it to the foreground. Okay? And so the first thing that we want to do is recognize that the business cycle is highly irregular and largely unpredictable. Some recessions are going to be very short and not that big of a deal. Some are huge and matter a lot. Some are very close together and some are very far apart. So, for example, we had 3 recessions in the United States during the 20 years between 1990 and 2010, but we also had 3 of them during the 10 years between 1970 and 1980. Right? So they don't have to be spread out, 3 every 20 years. They can be 3 every 10 years. Okay? They're also unpredictable. And if you think about it, this kind of makes sense, because if we could predict them, then why would they ever happen in the first place? There'd be no sense in allowing a business cycle to happen, or at the very least, allowing a recession to happen if we knew that it was going to happen. Now, to be sure, several people claim that they can predict, when the next one is coming, right? But at the same time, some people also claimed that the world was going to end in 2012, and last time I checked, it didn't, right? And so the key here that I'm trying to get at is that we tend to remember the people who were right, but we forget all the people who were wrong. And as the old saying goes, professional economists have successfully predicted 13 of the last 4 recessions. Okay, so the basic idea here is that when I say things are unpredictable, I don't mean that no one is going to predict them. It just says that someone is going to be right. Okay. The other way to think about this is with the infinite monkeys and infinite typewriters analogy. So if I give an infinite number of monkeys, an infinite number of typewriters, and I just have them, randomly pressing buttons, one of them is going to type, the entire collected works of Shakespeare. It doesn't mean that that monkey knows how to type. It doesn't mean that that monkey knows what Shakespeare is. It just means that that was the one that typed it. Okay? And so the same is true about people who make these predictions. Lots of people are constantly predicting that the world is going to end, that we're going to go into a new ice age, that we're going to go into, a terrible recession. And, at some point, one of them's probably just going to be right by sheer luck. It doesn't mean that this person was correct because they knew things. It just means that they were the random monkey that typed Shakespeare. Okay? The second key fact is that key variables fluctuate together. Whoops. Okay, and here, the variables that we're concerned with, at least in macroeconomics, are GDP, consumption, investment, net exports, and employment. Right? And as you can probably recall, there's a great equation that relates 4 of these together. And that was, y equals c plus I plus g plus nx. And so when c goes down, what happens to y? Right? Y has to also go down. And when I goes down, y goes down. And when nx goes down, y goes down, right? And what this is saying is that when any of the variables on the right side go down, the left side also goes down, okay? But it's a little more than that. It says, if investment goes down, that tends to drag down consumption, but it drags down consumption because it drags down y, and decreasing y reduces consumption as well. But we'll go into that more once we get into working with this. Okay, and so the point here is that when any of these variables, except for g, so we'll ignore g for now. All right, g is sort of an outlier. It's a weird one. Get into it. When any of these 4 variables change, the other 3 tend to change in the same direction. Okay? And then the third key fact is that as output falls, unemployment rises. Okay? And again, this isn't all that surprising, because if you remember our discussion about unemployment a few lessons ago, one of the types of unemployment was cyclical. And what that says is that as output falls, as we produce fewer things, unemployment is going to go up, right? And the reason why this happens is because when we're producing less things, companies and firms and businesses need fewer workers, and so they lay people off. And so that tends to increase the unemployment rate.